We haven't met before. I'm Jen Waldron. I'm one of the co-founders of Augusta, and I have with me today a absolutely incredible panel of visiting angels, owners and operators and HR folks. And the topic is basically mastering recruitment with Augusta. And so I think the folks who are actually using the product are perhaps some of the best people out there to share some of their insights about how they've used it and what they did before and how it's made an impact in their business. So that's why we gathered this group here and super excited to introduce them more specifically. Um, but before I do that, just as a reminder, I'm sure everybody here has been on 1,000 Zooms or Teams or whatever over the last few years. But keep down at the bottom of your Zoom bar, you'll see the Q&A button. As we're talking, um, just feel free to write in questions and I'll keep tabs on it as we go. And I'll bring up those questions to the group as soon as we're able. So, and then we are also recording this, so that way, if you registered for this and you missed it, or you have a colleague that wants to check it out, you'll be able to get the recording afterward. Okay, so with that, I'd love to introduce our guests today. So Louise Murphy has been a Visiting Angels franchisee for almost 16 years. Her original franchise was opened in 2009 in Nashua, New Hampshire, and in December 2020, along with a partner, reopened the Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts territory. She currently serves as the chairperson of the Franchise Advisory Council. Prior to Visiting Angels, she worked in commercial real estate and development lending, as well as investment banking, and has a lifetime of family caregiving experience. So thank you for being here, Louise. Um, Matt Thompson and his family own and run several Visiting Angels locations in northeastern Wisconsin. They have been helping people maintain their independence at home for 10 years now and are proud Packers fans. So, um, little healthy competition for folks out there. Next up is Brianna Wilson, and she's been with Visiting Angels of North Jacksonville, Florida since April of 2024, quickly becoming well-versed in the company's employment recruitment and onboarding processes. In her role in HR, she combines her hands-on experience with the daily use of the Augusta platform to enhance efficiency and drive employee growth. Brianna is a very strong advocate for the platform, knowing that it helps streamline our HR processes and contributes to their overall success. So thank you for being here, Brianna. And last but absolutely definitely not least, Phil Labadie is the co-owner of Visiting Angels of Omaha and Norfolk, Nebraska. He and his wife Julie purchased the franchise in 2017. Now in their 8th year of business, they've expanded from Omaha to a rural northeast Nebraska as well. Phil also serves on the Franchise Advisory Council, representing the Midwest region. He also enjoys family, friends, and playing ice hockey. So thank you so much for being here, Phil. Before I jump into a whole bunch of questions for our guests, I want to share about 2 minutes on Augusta. If you're not familiar with Augusta yet, this is just the most high-level overview to give you a sense of what we do. And then after that, we'll jump right into questions for our guests. So Augusta is a platform that we built from scratch entirely for home care agencies to help you find and interview top quality candidates who can help you grow your business. We call it the number one caregiver applicant matching platform. And I think it might be the only caregiver applicant matching platform. But it's a bit of a play on words on applicant tracking, except for the fact that everything and I can't stress this enough, everything we designed down to minute details is specific to caregivers and home care agencies and and it's all in service of helping you make as many matches as possible with clients that you have now, clients that you will have in the future. And very excited to share, I put it in my emails inviting everybody to this event. We did recently get added to the Visiting Angels vendor list. So happy to, very excited about that. And feel free to ask me any questions after this that you have. Okay, so a little background on what we've built, basically. This is just the genesis story of Augusta. I guess one important thing to know is that me and my team, we are all deeply entrenched in home care and senior care. I used to be a caregiver. That was my very first job in 2009 after college, and did that for 2 years in the memory care community. And it was really that experience that made me totally, completely driven to help and support this industry in whatever way I could. And I guess I say that because uh, part of what we knew when we started this company is that one of the main issues that most recruiters face today is that they get a ton of applicants. You call them all, so few pick up the phone, so few show up for interviews. So we already knew that that was the issue that we needed to address on the management side of the recruiting problems out there. But to do that, we looked at it from the caregiver's perspective, which I think is really important. And it's probably the most innovative thing about what we do, which I'm happy to share more with you at a later date. But basically, what we realized is that applicants are getting absolutely bombarded with messages. And because of that, and through job boards, texting programs, all different sort of ways, they're getting bombarded with messages about different jobs that they can one-click apply on. And because they're enabled to keep applying to jobs, they basically don't end up reading the job description, but they do apply to 16 jobs at one time. So that was kind of a big aha moment for us, where we really realized we need to completely change the experience of applying to a home care agency and make it totally different, so that way the caregivers actually understand what they're applying for, basically. Our platform does a ton of other stuff, but that is kind of the genesis story that I think is helpful to understand. The outcomes are basically that we simplify the process of connecting home care agencies with qualified and motivated caregivers, essentially. You get better matches. Augusta's platform is actually able to help you make matches before the first interview because of the amount of information that you get. Our customers end up getting more clients because they have the tools to be able to find the right people at the right time, find the needle in the haystack. And you get daily insights. We've got a hiring funnel that really, really works for home care agencies to support your hiring efforts. So that is the About Augusta section. At the end, I will go ahead and put my contact information on the screen, so that way you can get in touch when you are ready to learn more about Augusta. So with that, I have some questions prepared for our guests today. And the first one is kind of very broadly, just thinking about what's going on with Visiting Angels agencies today. I'd love to hear from you guys about what are the biggest headwinds that you're facing in general. Louise, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So for all of us, I think it's that our population triangle is upside down. We have more people in the age of needing care than we have people in the age of being providers of care. There are less care professionals or even family caregivers to support the needs of the aging population that we have. So for the follow-up to that is then attracting potential care professionals to our agencies and then providing them with the necessary resources and training. That's going to be our biggest challenge, I think, going forward. And a close second, I think, is controlling our costs or diversifying revenue sources, because we can only raise our private pay rates so much before people start cutting back on care or waiting longer to receive care. So I think those are, as an industry, that's an issue for so many of us.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as far as recruiting goes, as far as, challenges related to recruiting, it is basically getting people to call us back, to respond to us when they click on that apply now button, and trying to get them in for an interview and show up for an interview. It's historically been a struggle in home care, and certainly for me. If any of you have that secret sauce, let me know. But I think we made some significant headway with Augusta, which I'm going to talk about later. But that's been a historical, real challenge for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for so many people, yeah.
And just to elaborate on Luis's comment,
Yeah.
if I may, so the same headwind that we have today is the same headwind that I had 10 years ago when I first started in this industry, and it's finding enough caregivers. In my personal experience, the clients have always been there. It's having enough caregivers, and that could be a two-pronged approach. That could be having enough caregivers to staff new clients and having enough caregivers to replace your bad caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
So having enough caregivers has always been the headwind, and I imagine will always be the headwind in our business.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other specific recruiting challenges that Matt, that you have kind of come up against in addition to the broad issue?
Yeah. Is this in relation to your second question, or is this
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So time, period. I don't want to have to hire more recruiters to recruit more caregivers. Right? That kind of there's a give and a take there. There's a balance. So it comes down to attracting quality caregivers is a challenge, right? Once you find them, getting them in for interviews in a timely manner is a challenge, and then the onboarding process. So it's like it's almost like every step along that process can be a challenge to getting that mecca of having enough caregivers.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jen, I'll jump in.
Please.
What both Matthew and Louise said, I think all of us can agree we have those same, that seems to be the biggest thing. But what's cool is we're starting, and I know they are too, but we're starting to use technology to grab the caregivers first. And then after they go through this process and we do get them, we use technology to keep them. So I think making the best use of the best technology out there. And then your comment about taking it from the caregiver's perspective, I think is genius, because sometimes, we're all just, we start in this business and we, go to Indeed, and then, we're trying to use that platform. And then you figure out real quick that, it's not as clean or quick as it should be, or we wish it would be, to find another add-on software that's really been thought through all these processes. I think is just genius and key.
I definitely think I feel the same as Louise, Matt, and Phil. I think the demand for quality caregivers continues to rise. So you're kind of competing with other industries as well. So it's kind of a challenge centered around kind of efficiency through the process of going through the applications, getting to the candidates, getting to those quality candidates in time to kind of get them in the door, conduct the interview, and kind of get them through the rest of the processes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point about other industries too. Just out of curiosity, are there specific ones that you find that you're competing with more than others, Brianna?
No, I think it's just locally other agencies and facilities that you're kind of just trying to hit those qualified candidates, get them through the door as quickly as possible, especially with how much applications, we're getting. We don't want any qualified candidates to kind of just sit there on their application and not get reached to, and then kind of get snagged by other agencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. I feel like there's a theme here of time that it takes to contact the applicants, and really like I guess their experience and processing them in a way that's going to keep them moving through your funnel. I don't know if that's you feel like that's
100%.
yeah.
100%, yeah. So when we
Yeah.
think of the population that we're marketing to, and we're marketing a job to, these are people that for the most part live paycheck to paycheck. We need speed. They need a paycheck. So the person that can set the job interview first and perform that job interview first, for the most part, will win,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Hmm. Yep. Yeah. We
I also
definitely
believe within that, when you're using a platform where you're faster to the applicant, they view you as more professional business because you're quicker to respond or help them get signed up for an interview. And it just weeds through, because we had Julie, my wife and my partner, we had a person that she knew personally call us directly and say, hey, I tried to fill out a job, no one called me. And I go, well, did you go to a site that allows you to schedule your own time to interview? She goes, no. Well, we have a competing, they're not even a competitor, but their name is Angels Home Care. And we've realized she was on their side and they never got back to her. So I don't know if you guys have that anywhere else, but they do have it around this area, Angels Home Health Care. They're a home health company. So we were able to get her in, and but it's just kind of an interesting story that, because she said, really, like you said earlier, Jen, I just started clicking on all these agencies and no one really got back to them. So I think it gives us or people use professional a company that, because
that was just me, but I think for me, the internet cut out for you just for a second there, Phil, so I couldn't quite hear what you were saying.
Yeah, I did see that blip. I just said that
Okay.
your system's awesome. Everyone should buy it. How's that?
Okay.
End of webinar. It's been great.
I'll
Have a
sum
good
it up.
day.
You guys are the best. Thank you. We did actually just get a question from somebody in the audience. If you don't mind me sharing it. So Genevieve says, hi everyone, I'm excited to get started with Augusta and can see the value. My question is very Visiting Angel specific. We have good luck with our franchise marketing and receive most of our employment leads that way. How are you using Augusta in conjunction with the franchise lead process? Are they separate, or have you created a new workflow with Augusta to take advantage of both? So that actually is going to get to one of my later questions.
Exactly.
But yeah. About where you're using Augusta, but if you want to go ahead now.
So quickly, I can tell you, we're using Augusta anywhere we're looking for new care professionals, and anybody that goes, so the franchise leads are directed to your website to apply, and the apply button is connected to our Augusta application. So they're all directed anywhere they're directed to go through our Augusta application.
Mm-hmm. All those pre-application processes are captured through Augusta. So you don't have to change any of your current techniques. It's all connected. They're just funneled to a different place.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so the next question is, I'd love for you all to talk a little bit about what you were doing before Augusta, basically. What was either your process, your tools, your system that before you started working with us.
I'd love to talk about this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So before we were old school, like applying Indeed, rummage through Indeed. Okay. then call them manually, interview them on the phone. Okay. Then we used what's called Paradox. Maybe some of the people on this call are using Paradox or have used Paradox. So the thinking behind using Paradox was when people apply for a job, they're not doing it typically between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday. Again, we think of our workforce. It's Sunday night at midnight, dreading going to work on Monday. I want to apply for a job. So for us, we wanted to find a system that could schedule an interview 24/7. Okay. So that's why we did Paradox. So I'll just keep it brief. Those are the two systems that we used prior to Augusta. I don't know if you want me to elaborate on like the difference, or is now the time? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me just explain. The problem with that is with Paradox, AI is all the rage, and that's great, but they're talking to a person that's AI generated, having a conversation, scheduling the interview, but the quality of our interviews was very poor. Okay. So we had like a 30% show up rate. So if I had 10 interviews scheduled, 3 would show up. What Augusta has allowed us to do is it forces the person, in effect, with a questionnaire, not pretending to be AI, just a simple question and answer survey, forces them to read the job description by answering these questions about traveling, about hours, about availability, about, just to give a few examples. So it's cutting out, either through self-elimination or through our elimination, the applicants who aren't a good fit. And now our show up rate has gone up to 60%. So we've doubled it. So with 10 interview blocks, I'm now doing twice as many interviews, which means I'm hiring twice as many caregivers. So it's much more efficient. So we get the ability to schedule an interview 24/7, but by forcing them to take this questionnaire that isn't pretending to be something else, we're making sure that the interviews that are getting scheduled are better quality, better chance of showing up, better chance of getting hired.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Just out of curiosity, with Paradox, like when I guess you were describing that they're like they think that they're chatting with a person, right? I guess in that process, how many questions were they able to like kind of ask? Like how many questions could you ask of an applicant?
Louise, you did Paradox too, didn't you,
I
Louise?
did, yeah, and
Yeah.
I will answer this question, and I don't recall the exact number. It was somewhere similar to what you had. The issue with Paradox is if they didn't ask a question or use lingo that you had specifically programmed in to the system, they like basically said, we don't have any jobs like that.
Oh,
So
Think
it
about
pushing
having a
people away.
conversation. Think about having a conversation with Siri, and
Yeah.
when Siri tells you, "I don't know, could you come again?" or whatever,
yeah.
it's the same deal.
Right. Right. And so like if somebody said, I want a CNA job, and in New Hampshire, we don't advertise for CNAs because in New Hampshire we have licensure. So it's an LNA in New Hampshire. And so we have, LNA, and people would be I'm looking for a CNA job. And they kept getting responses saying, we don't have that kind of position available. There are no positions available. And it was really frustrating and felt like it was cumbersome to actually get through the scheduling process. We weren't getting a lot of people scheduling. So we actually left them and we went to applicant stack. But it was still such a manual process for us with applicant stack. People were coming in having answered, name, email, phone number. That's it. And so that still left us individually, going back to what Matt was saying earlier about time. It was a lot of time trying to even just connect with them to answer those basic questions about any experience. Where do are you willing to work in our territory? Things like that. And then actually connecting with them, because they are applying to jobs after hours, right? And there's no one here to answer their questions. So if you're calling them back at 9 in the morning, they're probably already at work. right? And difficult. It was very, very difficult to connect and actually then get them to go through the process and to continue the process and come in, because it felt like this is difficult. It was a difficult process. And so again, what you said earlier about looking at it from the care professional perspective makes all the difference in the world. And so when we did switch to Augusta, it was really like a breath of fresh air, because you can fill out that application and we can get good information about you in those 10 questions. We can get great information about you in those 10 questions, and you don't feel it's interactive. So you're not feeling like I'm just answering a bunch of questions and no one's ever going to get back to me. It's a lot more pleasant for from the applicant perspective, and much easier for them. And then it's so easy for them to actually schedule the interview themselves, that we've actually had applicants tell us how much they like that particular part of the process, that they were able to schedule it when it was convenient for them. So I think that truly the manual process prior to implementing Augusta is really what killed us. And our show up rate, I'll tell you later, has dramatically improved.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Phil or
Sorry, I think I might
Brianna?
have answered some other questions too.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. It's great. Yeah. Phil and Brianna,
Um,
I'd love to hear about what you were doing before Augusta.
Absolutely. So we were kind of similar to Matt, where we were actually posting jobs on Indeed. Um, so we were doing that, which would take them through a general application. So we kind of had to spend a lot of time, which is what everybody else is talking about, kind of sorting through that plethora of applications, trying to get to them within a certain amount of time to get to snag them. We were also we use Access Care software for our home care. So we were linking our Access Care application to our company site, and that was a little bit more detailed. It did require a little bit more of a detailed input. So we kind of noticed a drop off of completion of applications with that. So Augusta's really helped streamline that process, where they're able to kind of, self-evaluate, go through, and then schedule themselves. So any qualified candidates, we don't have to kind of sort through all those applications and try to quickly get to them. They're able to find a time and date that's best for themselves, which has helped us tremendously. And then our Access Care application, we now kind of we frame it in a way that it's more of the next process in the interview. So we're finding that we get more completion for that as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. To like moving, because at some point there's all this other information you need to be able to hire somebody. There, all the info for their background check and references, things like that. But it sounds like what you've done is moved that to basically after they've already had that first conversation with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that way you can get to them first and sell them and
yeah, exactly.
And sell them and evaluate them. It's a two-way street. So awesome. That's great. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, same as Matthew. We went through Indeed to Paradox to Augusta, and I can't really add anything more. We had the same issues, and same as with Louise. We got so bogged down in those systems and the Olivia popping up, and then I think I was sharing with you earlier that we got rid of that, and I still have Olivia leads. I don't know why I disconnected it. I can't find it, but I still get a lead once in a while. But we found like a lot of the leads, just like Matthew was saying, was they weren't really qualified.
Mm-hmm.
We go through all that time, and then of course, then on top of that, they don't show. So the money that we were spending on that versus the return was, not very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think maybe the theme of the three of you, or the folks who have switched from Paradox and I mean, what my takeaway is from it, and feel free to correct me, is part of, I think, what was happening is basically that it almost sounds like there's not enough information that's correct, that's either being given to the applicant or received from the applicant, basically. And that disconnect ends up causing you to either have a bunch of appointments set that are not qualified candidates or very few qualified candidates. It's kind of one or the other, it sounds like. Is that a good synopsis? Yeah. Well, that was super helpful. So we kind of talked about this a little bit already.
Can I just
Oh,
make one more comment sort
yeah,
of
please.
about the difference between Paradox and Augusta? They're both, you know, AI sort of working through this process, but the way that you have your application set up and the way you helped us set up the answers to the questions to determine what was qualified, what wasn't qualified, is, you know, we're giving people choices A, B, C, or D versus offering you open answer and hoping that you choose a keyword that we put into the system. So it's made it a lot easier for people to see themselves as qualified and themselves as be like, wow, these people will be really excited to meet me, you know? So, and I think that makes a huge difference, you know, when you're interacting with them and saying that, you know, that system's interacting, saying you're so close to this office, definitely apply, right? Or, you know, you've got great experience, we really want to meet you, whatever, however the answers come out. It's helping them actually get excited about the prospect of meeting us.
Exactly.
But it's different than when we were using Paradox, where we just had to hope they were going to use the words we wanted them to use.
Mm-hmm.
So that's made a huge difference, I think, in people following through the process.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
So
Are there?
when we did add Augusta, essentially Augusta is now doing the entire front end of our applicant screening, right? So people time, we have more time to actually focus on getting those qualified people in and working right away, getting them through the onboarding process and working right away, because we have the upfront system that's really helping us push through the people that we deem as qualified. So that's made a big difference for us
Yeah,
in that
I
regard.
think that's a great point, and thank you for saying it. I think one thing that's related that comes up a lot when I talk to people who are just learning about Augusta for the first time is I get sometimes people wonder, oh, is this like replacing the recruiter? And like I think kind of related to what you're saying. I mean, really, it's meant to enable the recruiter and give them as much time with the right people as possible.
It's a
Like,
tool for your
yeah,
recruiter. It
yeah,
saves your recruiters time so they can actually do recruiting.
yes, and like really spend time with the good candidates so that way they're not like trying to find the good ones. Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
And like I said earlier, we use Augusta. We use the link or the QR code for our Augusta application anywhere. So it's on our Indeed. It's on our, we don't use quick apply. We don't let people do the quick apply on Indeed. It's linked to our Augusta application. And so it's anywhere we do Facebook, any social media website, our Terra flyers that we hang up, you know, all over town or whatever town we need people in. And the beauty of it is those QR codes are specific to the referral source. So we have much better information about where our people are coming from, what our best referral sources are. And obviously Indeed's always the number one because they're the big, you know, the big guy in town, but we can see that we're actually getting productive results from the tariff flyers or in our employee referral, like the statistics are much easier for us to see. Great.
Any other things that you changed or other places that you're using Augusta? One thing that comes to mind, Phil, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about this. When we were talking the other day, you had mentioned that the part of what we do is we twice a month we have we call them Ask Me Anything webinars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Phil, you had mentioned that was really helpful too.
Yeah, I think the whole working with your company has been pleasant. Like you're always available, um, and that whenever we have questions, we have an HR specialist on board. She should get all the credit. She's like a Brianna for our company, and we can't work without good people, right? But she would say that anytime she had an issue, she was able to call in and talk to Sam or other people on your staff and get answers. And one of the main things that really stuck in my mind was you helped us go through our Indeed and our spends, and he was helping us saying, I think you're overspending here. You could cut that back, and it worked. Like we saved a lot of money just by him looking at it. It took 5 minutes, and we're like, I think I was sharing. I know I shared with Louise about all those. They're always looking to help have you spend more money on Indeed. Obviously, that's their job, but just to save the savings there is also I don't know, a side benefit that I think everybody can enjoy just by they just look at how you're setting up your monthly ads on Indeed. I think he's even helped us with our keywords in our market by looking up. I mean, I know other people do that, but he'll actually go in or your company will go in and help with that based on where you're at. So that was nice to have, as owners, we're so busy. And like for myself, I'm dealing with, I don't know how many different softwares, and I don't have time to be on top of everything. And just to have a company that backs their product or their service is awesome. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to agree with Phil. I think I'm the person in the office who, handles Augusta more often than anyone else. So whenever I have questions, Sam is super quick and is really thorough with answering any of my questions. But Augusta has really helped me to kind of simplify the recruitment process, being that I can kind of specify what questions would make the candidates qualified or unqualified or someone who would need further review, and just with doing that we noticed that about 47% of the applicants that we get are unqualified, which definitely cuts down on the time without having Augusta having to kind of weed through all those Indeed applications or Access Care applications and spending the time kind of contacting them and having to weed them out manually. Also, what Louise was saying, we kind of link our Augusta link everywhere that we have job postings, which is super convenient, being that you can see kind of what channel they're coming from. I also find it very helpful that I can kind of customize that link based off of where the inquiries are coming from. So if it's a cold call, and kind of customize that to a cold call or a referral. So it's very helpful to kind of see where people are reaching out to us from Augusta, and we don't have to look on different platforms to see where it's coming from. It's all consolidated on Augusta, so we know kind of where we're getting most of our engagement.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's super great to hear that. I mean, I do think a lot of our folks have a similar story to you all and Phil, what you were just sharing about, like, you're trying to do a lot of things during the day, and nobody can be an expert on every single thing that's going on out there. And even just Indeed alone, it's a whole process of mastering how to use the job board. So part of what we're doing at Augusta is really providing that extra support through these Ask Me Anything webinars, so that way your team and you can come and basically help you guide you through the way to maximize the job boards and what you're doing in terms of the different sources that you're using.
And what's good about that, I mean, I know everybody in Visiting Angels is experiencing the increase in competition from other agencies. And of course, everyone's going to Indeed. And if we can get that knowledge and get everything fine-tuned to where we're getting them first, that means everything, because as we know, it's a time-sensitive thing. Because the other thing too is the good and the bad thing about the good caregivers is that they get a client, they will actually put up with less money because they love the person. They love their client, and it's hard to get them something happens or something changes, those are the caregivers we want. And if they start looking, we want to grab them, right? So that's always on our mind. And like I said, and at least in our territory, there's a lot of people that are coming in as just small entities. And I think we did like a study once, and this includes small people. We have like over 300 competitors. We have the major ones, but a lot of small mom and pop things are everywhere. Like everyone's getting into it. We have a big med waiver program in Nebraska that pays somewhat decent. So a lot of people are jumping into that, but they're still grabbing the caregivers. So we need to get them first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually just looked down at the clock and gonna kind of push things along just a little bit here so that way we can get to, I think, what is Matt shared some of his information already, but I'd love for the rest of you guys to share some of the results that you've noticed from Augusta as kind of our way to start wrapping up the call today.
I can tell you from our perspective, we've had a significant increase in applications and scheduled interviews. And we're getting more people in the door. No shows still happen, but I will tell you in 2024, our show up rate was 77% for interviews, which in
That even made
2023,
me
we were hovering around 40. So 40 to 77 is amazing. And, we can't hire people unless we get them in the door. So this has been really positive momentum for us. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from people who have gone through the application process. And I think ultimately it's because we're doing it on their terms. They can apply when they want to. They can, schedule an interview when they want to. That first application is so much shorter than our full application that they don't feel like this is going to be a hard process. So I think it's just been a very, very positive change in our process. And again, I will also credit, I don't do the day-to-day work in Augusta. So our recruiter, Alexis, really does all the work and has had a phenomenal experience. Also, same thing with Samuel and getting those Indeed questions, kind of figure out how to maximize the use of Augusta within our process.
That's awesome. Those are incredible results. It surprised even me a little bit. I mean, I knew you had good results, but like that's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
so
great results.
Yeah. Brianna,
Same. So like I said,
Matt?
47% of our applicants that we're able to see are unqualified, which means that 53% of those are. 21% of those are automatically booking their interviews. And then another 8% are being booked by me. So we're getting a lot more people in the door. We're getting a lot more qualified people too. I got with one of our office members today regarding our turnover rate. I know the HCP national turnover rate is 79.2% for 2023. We were actually at 84.4%. 2024, after using Augusta, we've gone down under the national average now at 77.6%. So
Awesome.
It's definitely helped us reach those qualified candidates for sure.
And that was an annual turnover rate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Phil or Matt?
Well,
I know, Matt, you kind of shared some already, but I would love if you have anything else to add too. Yeah.
Well, just for December, I had Megan, our Brianna equivalent. We had 131 total applications, Indeed 82. These are coming in through the connections we have. Facebook had 2. We got 2 off our Google. WellSky 17, which would be leads from the home office, I think, that are funneled through that. And then, no, I'm sorry, WellSky has its own 17, and then home office 28, and Olivia 2. But so total interviews scheduled 98, total interviews conducted 39, total offers 17. I don't think that's too bad. So
sounds pretty good.
happy.
It's it sounds like it's been an improvement for you from where you started from.
very much
Yeah,
so.
hiring, this is all math. Hiring more caregivers, it's honestly, it's pure math, right? More applicants. What you do on the driving applicant end, that's every business is a little different, whether it's tear out flyers, whether it's how much you're spending on Indeed, and that's really not what this webinar is about, right? But it's what you do when you capture them, right? And it's about capturing them quickly, qualifying them, and interviewing them quickly. And that's what we feel. And I know, and I've shared the statistics with the percentage that are showing up. We have a far better show up rate. We're hiring more caregivers. We've increased our caregivers leaps and bounds above what it was before the last tool that we used with Paradox. So, and then another nice thing about Augusta is we have really good data, and it's even getting better, right? So we get to see how many we're capturing, how many are starting the questionnaire but haven't completed it, how many are not qualified, how many do we have to take a look at. So it's with Paradox, it was like I had to be Bill Gates to understand this stuff, like what am I looking at, But this is, you've dumbed it down. If I can understand it, everybody in the webinar can understand it.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I had put this on the calendar for 45 minutes and we're just a little bit over time, but I just want to say thank you, Phil, Louise, Matt, and Brianna. You are incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with Augusta and what you did before. And I hope that was really helpful to everybody out there. If there was questions that didn't get answered, I'll follow up with you after this if you chatted something in. But if you want to reach out to me and learn a little bit more about Augusta or look at a demo, just reach out to me. It's jen@augusta.care. There's my phone number, or you can go on the website and book a demo and you will be able to self-schedule. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you. Have a great day.